Hey there, this is Matt Berggren with Fine Media, here with Parts.io by SupplyFrame, the same guys that brought you Fine Chips. I'm going to meet with Chris Gammell, the product manager from Parts.io, to talk about their new parametric search engine. Chris, we're here at DesignCon 2015, official launch of Parts.io.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the site.
The site is a new parametric search engine, basically focusing on data in order to reduce risk for engineers when they're picking up parts, especially at the prototyping stage, but then also moving into production, right? Because there's a lot of things that can go wrong when you're...
Okay, so expand on that a little bit. What does it mean to reduce risk when picking parts?
Right, so you're an engineer, you've done this before where you design something in, you pick a part, it's the perfect fit, you get to a prototype stage, but then maybe 6 months later, it goes obsolete, or it already was obsolete and you didn't know it. You can't find it in distribution. It's just it's like a unicorn part that you just happen to fit, and so that's a risky thing, because then at the end of the day, when you're trying to manufacture something, you're either gonna have to go back and start your design cycle over again, or you're gonna just be delayed while you wait for parts, or it's not always just you can't get it at all. It could be you can't get it on time, that kind of thing.
Okay, so why am I not just jumping up onto DigiKey, Newark, Mauser, Farnell, kind of running through that gauntlet?
Well, I mean, those are all great sites, and actually we work with all those sites, but it's about visibility across all of them, right? So it's kind of you pick your favorite and you go there, but if you're not seeing all manufacturers, if you're not seeing the pricing for all of them, if you don't have flexibility in going across all online distributors, then you're limiting yourself, and basically we're trying to open that up so that you're not limited, you're not dealing with any kind of risk from that.
Okay, so this is kind of a portal into looking across multiple distributors, right? So okay, does that include manufacturers that handle their own distribution?
No, actually. I mean, we don't have any of those directly, I don't believe, but all of the... I actually don't know. Hard question.
Hard question.
Yeah.
Hard-hitting journalism, that's me.
Yeah, I'm thinking, so all of the distributor stuff is based on Fine Chips, which is another thing that SupplyFrame runs, and Fine Chips, I believe, is just distributors. There may be some other stuff in there, because a lot of them are moving towards the direct stuff, but yeah, I'm not sure. I'll have to check on that.
But now, okay, so SupplyFrame also owns Fine Chips, right? Fine Chips gives me that visibility. Fine Chips tends to be more a last mile type application, in the sense that I kind of already know what part numbers I'm fishing for when I get into Fine Chips. You mentioned that Parts.io has parametric search. Does that imply that there's more opportunity to go in there and kind of fiddle around and find parts, rather than, Fine Chips implies that, but but finding parts, maybe discovering components that
discovery is a better word, right? So discovering is when you need a thing, nebulous thing, you don't know which one, you don't know which vendor, you don't know which exact part number. That's where you're going to be going out and using parametric searches anyways. You're going to be filtering down, trying to figure out, oh, I do need this or that. Maybe you didn't even know that a certain parameter you cared about, but once you see it, you can start to narrow based on that, and then kind of get a subset of lists so that you're not looking at all parts, the millions, hundreds of millions of parts that are in the supply chain. You're looking at the ones that are a good fit.
Well, now, and one of the things that you showed was this concept of a list. It's an interesting concept because the ability to compile a list of components means different things at different stages in the process, right? A list of components which represents a battery charge circuit versus, say, a list of components which is truly my bill of materials, versus, say, a list of parts that I just think are interesting, that I use all the time. Can you talk a little bit about that concept? I mean, you were the guy that really drove that product vision for that. Like
the divide between BOM and list? Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. I mean, the reason we did that is because when you're, you never know when inspiration strikes, right? So if you are browsing through, especially on the list side, if you're browsing through and you see something you think, I could use that someday, right? This used to happen in the catalog days. You flip through the catalog or the data book, and you'd see something, you say, oh, that looks cool, but you don't have anything in mind. Well, maybe you want to just add it to a list of parts for the future, kind of thing. And so you just throw it on there. Or if you're doing shopping for, I had a friend who was doing shopping for analog switches, right? And very notoriously difficult thing because there's all these weird little specs that are in there, very small nuances. He wanted to add a list of parts that he wanted to gather up the ones that he had found and basically narrowing based on a certain criteria, and then add them to certain lists, because he was redoing research every 6 months. He had a spreadsheet, and he would be doing this, but then he'd go back and have to check all of that, and he didn't have accessibility directly to that information, or maybe that spreadsheet had links somewhere and the links changed, that kind of thing. So now if you tag it right to the part in the system, you can just go right to the parametric information, the data sheet, that kind of thing.
So now how does this, I guess then, from there, you know, somewhat implicit in that is my ability to sort of create a bill of materials in this system. What about actually bringing in a bill of materials? Can I bring in an external bill of materials? Can I load an external BOM file?
Yeah, I mean, yes. So we have a CSV import now, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So that allows you to really gather up your stuff. I mean, it's tough when you're doing prototyping, that kind of thing. That's kind of why we're doing a lot of this stuff in the first place. Is we want to be able to give engineers tools that makes their life suck less.
Well, now you did a couple of really cool things for visualization. Things like data sheet visualization, that sort of thing. You want to talk a little bit about that model?
Sure. I mean, we the big thing there. I mean, in my background, it's always been, you know, you download, you go somewhere, you're doing a search, and you have a bucket of data sheets or a folder of data sheets, right? And it's just like, how do you keep it straight? How do you know what you're looking at right away? So the idea was, as you're actually browsing through the search, you have this list of potential components. Slide out a window, look at the data sheet immediately, make these snap decisions, because that's what we're doing anyways. It's just a little bit more gathered together, a little bit more.
Sure. Well, like in the case of the microprocessor, where I've got a certain amount of onboard flash, I've got a certain memory interface, I've got some peripherals that are on board, that sort of thing. Certainly one of those where I'm cycling through the different data sheets and actually looking at the different looking at the different components and trying to choose components from there. In terms of the parametric detail, is there the ability then to go through and extract that parametric information? You know, some people have SAP, right? Or some people are using a design tool like Altium or OrCAD or something like that. At the component level, one of the biggest problems that I found, certainly in managing an engineering team, was that I was paying engineers to do what was largely an administrative task, right? You're going in there, you're plugging part parameter information into a database, or you're plugging it into a schematic symbol, something like that, just so then you can go back and generate a bill of materials in the future for that design.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, that's so much grunt work that's in engineering. It's just like, it's the stupid stuff, and that's the stuff that can trip. I mean, like, we talk about risk. That's one of the other things that's a risk is, well, what happens when you key something in wrong? What happens when you're spending 4 hours on a spreadsheet that ends up getting ripped apart when you send it to a CM, and they're just going to I've done that before, where you spend all this time on a bill of material, and then you send it somewhere, and they just redo it. It was like, because they have to, because that's part of their flow. And it's like, okay, well, let's give engineers tools that allow them to make their part easier, and then export it to something that makes more sense later.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Well, awesome. Listen, Chris, it was great talking to you. Thanks so much. This is Matt Berggren with Phi Media, talking to Chris Gammell from Parts.io, part of SupplyFrame, here at DesignCon 2015.